Welcome to another edition of Ask the Pastor, where you ask the questions and your pastors try to give you the answer. Well, Pastor Rick, I have a question here for us. It says that since the COVID outbreak, I have friends who can't grasp the fact that, or the idea of there being a loving God who is sovereign, but he allows things, crises like these in the world. And the person says, I often try to say that these crises are the result of man's sin, but then my friends shut down. Is there a better way to address this topic? Am I missing something?
Excellent question. The very first thing that I would say is you might very well be giving a perfectly good answer. Nevertheless, a good answer will not satisfy every questioner. And one of the reasons for that is these are spiritually discerned truths. This person must humble themselves before God and come to grips with the fact that without sin, there would be no suffering. That is the message of the Bible. It is because of man's sin that suffering came into the world. If we say that suffering doesn't come from sin, then we lose the gospel. Jesus suffered because of sin. So we have to establish that right off the bat.
One of the things I love about this question is it shows the concern that Christians have for their unbelieving friends. Here this person really and truly wants the other person to get it. But as you said, there is a truth here being communicated that apart from the grace of God, we're not going to want to receive. And here I think we really need to keep this in mind. When you're talking to someone about spiritual truths, about our faith, remember the goal. The goal isn't to win. The goal isn't to persuade them. The goal is to bear witness accurately and faithfully to the truth of God. And if you tell a person accurately and faithfully the answer, then we need to be satisfied with that, even if they don't receive it well, even if they don't like it, even if, as the person says here, they shut down. Of course, I don't want to be, haughty in my answer. I don't want to be proud or arrogant or condescending. I certainly want to be gracious in the way I speak. That's part of it too. But really and truly, I think the first goal has got to be, what does the Bible say? And I think the person really does nail it. You have to get to sin at some point. That's the only reason why suffering and death and things like the COVID outbreak make sense, is that there's sin in the world and God judges sin.
And one other distinction I would point out is the difference between suffering in general, which came into the world because of sin, and the suffering of God's people. You see, the suffering of God's people is not due to God's vengeance, but rather his love. God's people, sometimes the righteous, suffer because God tests, improves, and purifies his people by suffering. And so that suffering for God's people, although it may look the same as the rest of the world, it's actually motivated very much differently because it is God's love and discipline to them.
It's a great point, Rick. And really, there's no greater way that we as Christians can bear witness to God than when we suffer for him. When we say, you know what? Because I love God so much, I'm going to willingly endure this affliction that if I would just sin, maybe I could get out from under it. And the world looks at that and they don't understand. And it's just this powerful witness. If everything worked out great for us when we were Christians, everyone would be a Christian. But when I choose Christ and suffering, that's a powerful witness for God. Well, I want to thank you for your questions. Keep them coming. We'll try to answer them for you next time.